Okay, my name is Monty Henry, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment, and we run a full service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all of our law enforcement grade, lifetime guaranteed and warranted products. We're available 24/7, 365 for tech sales and customer support. These are some of the unique attributes of my company. Um, but talking about spy gadgets and talking about surveillance products, detection products and devices, it's not why we're here today. Today, we're here to talk about this particular subject matter that I'm interested in and passionate about. Has to do with a Black Wall Street. Now, just to summarize, and you guys can go back and feel free to take a look at some of the earlier blabs and information that we have. In addition to that, we have an actual um, blog where we've actually posted and going to post a lot of information. So what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to take a link to the blog and post it into the blab because I run a business and I'm going to probably try and get away with as much as possible in terms of blabbing about this particular subject, getting it on record. But I'm probably going to get interrupted, and I'm not quite sure how far I'm going to get. But I'll have to get something on record as quickly as possible. So this particular blog is going to be a central clearinghouse, if you will, of information pertaining to Black Wall Street. The initial concept or idea was actually implemented in the early 1900s in Greenwood, Oklahoma. A bunch of Black citizens, merchants, were tired of the divisiveness, the racial segregation, inequalities going on in that particular state and those communities at that time. So they set up a certain portion of town and later became the entire town of Greenwood there, where there were successful, thriving Black businesses. They did very, very well. And again, I'm kind of rushing through this, but it was a very successful implementation of the equivalent of a Black Wall Street. Now, what we're trying to do in the blabs, we're trying to first bring to light this historical event, which has never been mentioned in the history books per se, but we want to get it out there in the mainstream and circulate it around the social media websites, Twitter, Facebook, Instagrams, everything imaginable, in addition to the blog site. And individuals who have Black-owned businesses, for instance, if they want to go to my blog site, give me links, resource links that we can add to their businesses, offering products and services, for instance, in the Black communities, we need a reservoir of information. We need a number of businesses offering products and services again that will get the word out. We want to send a message that we do have a thriving community of Black-owned businesses offering products and services for Blacks, well, for anyone basically, but definitely a central place where Blacks can take a look at doing business with each other, so we can perhaps grow this network of businesses. So as we look for unique products that especially serve the Black community, then we can find that resource. Okay, a lot of mainstream products don't really satisfy the unique requirements and attributes of the Black community very well, and specifically the individuals are being underserved. So we need, again, a clearinghouse of businesses offering products and services that are made for Blacks, but can be used perhaps by other people if they wish. So I'm not recommending that we totally disregard other customers, but definitely we need to formulate and cater and customize products and services for the Black community to address the specific needs that we have as a people. And I don't care if that's financial information, if you got financial services, investment planning, accountants, bookkeepers, if you got hair care products, whatever the products are, graphics designers, website developers are welcome as well. So go to our blog site and see if we can list these businesses on the blog page. And I'll promote that blog page. I have a significant social media following on Twitter and Facebook and Google, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll promote the blog site that's promoting the businesses so we can have a hopefully a huge network of people where we're actually have a central clearinghouse, if you will, of information. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, I'm going to promote this blab session, and at least we have that on record as far as what we're trying to accomplish with this particular blab. Okay, it may not be the most comprehensive blab that I've ever done, but the objective again is to just get on record and let the community know that, so that when you go to the replay, for instance, you can clearly see that we have part 3 of the Black Wall Street moving forward, and we have this blab is dedicated to a plan. Okay, you cannot move forward with anything unless you actually implement a plan, a strategy. So that's what we're doing today. We want to go forward and make sure that everyone understands we are taking a look at the Black Wall Street concept. And we did a historical analysis and perspective. We did put an emphasis on the narrative of what that means, Black Wall Street. What does it mean to have a narrative, a message that we want to send and implement? And now we're taking a look at a plan and how do we move forward. That way, if there's any individuals who are trying to take a look at Black-owned businesses and what happened with the original Black Wall Street, we want to make sure that they understand, everyone understands that now we get down to the nuts and bolts. Now we get to the brass tacks, and so that we can actually channel resources and have resources available in certain areas, so that again people can go to those particular areas. Let's see. Hello, Evan. How you doing? You putting the heat on, Mighty go for it. Thanks. Yeah, I'm typically identified as the individual who doesn't think a whole lot about people's sensitive emotions and nerves and hesitation. I typically I shoot first and think later sometimes, but I think good ideas are what I perceive as good ideas. You have to implement them. You have to put them into effect, right? So yeah, not all the time do we have the luxury of overthinking something. And I think this was a good concept. And I'm responding to one of the just for you guys who know, who may not know what I'm talking about. Visitors come to the blab and they make comments, and we respond to those comments, and that's what I'm responding to now. A good friend who's now commenting about going for the idea. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. We want to go for the idea without a whole lot of hesitation, and we want to let everyone know what we're doing, and it's kind of in your face strategy. But I don't have time to play around. Okay, I got a business to run. A lot of people are going to look at this particular situation, at this particular blab, and they're going to either extract something valuable from it or not. But you can't get there unless you actually do it, right? So that's what we're doing. Hello. Okay, great. So yeah, basically, but if anybody wants to chime in, you don't have to be Black to chime in. We got an open seat. It doesn't matter. I think some of the things that we're talking about, Evan, and anyone else that comes along in the replay or whatever, understand that this is not a separatist, divisional issue or type of movement, if you will. What I'm trying to really do is make sure that in our Black community that we have some resources. We develop the resources so that we can better equip ourselves and perhaps better reach out afterwards. Right now, I don't know if we have a whole lot of resources. I don't know if we have a central clearinghouse or enough central clearinghouses of information. And I think that's going to be important going forward. So we have a good friend, Evan. He's coming into the blab. Let's see if I can let you in without screwing this up. Oh, hi, Evan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear. Great. How you been?
Awesome, awesome. I just want to say thank you for following back on Twitter. I love what you're doing. As you
You're
know, I
welcome.
always
Thank
respect
you.
what you're doing. And it was awesome, Blab. Yesterday, I was in there for a couple of hours listening to you guys. I think you touched a lot of different
Thank you.
soups. So it was awesome. Yeah, absolutely. We need to have
Great.
this type of discussions and need to understand both sides of the world and for us to go
Right.
move forward and help each other. Really, it's just not a matter of a racial matter of a color.
Exactly.
It's a matter of all of us. We all got 2 feet.
That's right. That's true. I think it was
Yeah,
constructive. Hopefully everyone added something and took away something. You know, so that we all can get something valuable out of it. Definitely. Yeah.
I think the information was there. It's very transparent and a point of view of different individuals. So it was good educational for the younger people who really doesn't know a little bit about what you were talking yesterday. Is
Right.
It's important for all of us and all round to understand what's going on. And we're not dumb. We know what's going on. We know we want the
Yes.
better
That's
and both
right.
sides. And the question of about what is the most important things holding us back as a society. That was the picture you guys tried to depict, and then I think it was pretty awesome that perhaps somebody who's like a policymakers and come frigging on these blabs and watch us guys talking about those issues and taking note and frigging make some policies to benefit us and overall.
Well, that's a good point. I think a lot of times the people that we hire, if you will, in Washington, D.C., they don't really look at how we view these issues. And if it's a contentious issue at our level, then I think as we formulate policy that tries to address the bigger picture and the repercussions of what happens when we have an issue, then they're reacting, right? The people in Washington,
Yeah.
they're reacting. So, yeah, in order to, I think, formulate policy, they really should take a look at what we're talking about. How do we get some of these people into a blab? How do they become part of the solution, part of the discussion? And I think absent those people that we hire to do these jobs for us in Washington, you don't really get the type of strategy that we're trying to hash out on our own, right? We're trying to come up with our own solution, our own ideas, and our own way of implementing or looking at it. But we can't do that in a vacuum. We have to work with the people who are obviously part of the solution and part of the problem. Right. That's
You
a
said
very good
it well.
point.
Uh, you said it well. Just as we are on record in here, I just want to be like an anchor to you and want to ask you so you can really put a little
Sure.
bit light on the
Thank
on
you.
the Black Wall Street moving forward plan. And could you
Thank you.
please just go ahead and elaborate on that so individuals who's coming and watching this replay so they can understand?
Fantastic. Yeah, what Evan is referring to, you guys, is both an ideology and it's both a historical recorded event. Now, when we talk about the recorded event, the good news is this: it was a very, very historical moment that somehow didn't make it into the history books for some strange reason. When I went to college and high school and et cetera, I don't remember this being brought up. So for some reason, I learned about this just weeks ago, of all things, and it was brought up as just a matter of discussion and a blab. And unfortunately, see, we read history books and such, and we don't look at all of these events, and we don't discuss them, we don't debate them critically while we're still going through K through 12, is what is known in the United States, where basically you're getting your primary education. I think it would be good to get a well-rounded knowledge, but sometimes this type of information is gleaned over, and you don't get a chance to really understand culturally what type of diversity we have within these particular cultural and ethnic groups. So what happens is you have a very skewed version of the reality, in my opinion. So getting into the ideology, besides having a geographic specific location where a lot of thriving Black businesses sold to each other, networked amongst each other, attracted commerce from all over the United States into a central place, Greenwood, Oklahoma. And I encourage you guys to take a look at the blog link on the left and understand the historical context of this particular geographic location. And it served as a very good model, and the people were very prosperous. And again, it was attractive enough to get businesses from all over the United States to go there, relocate there with their families, and endure the hardships of travel and relocation. But the end goal was to network and be a part of something phenomenal. And that, I think, that was indeed accomplished had it not been for the conclusion, the disruption of the racial divisiveness and hostilities and violence that was perpetuated upon a town of people who were trying to stick to themselves, network with each other, better the lives of each other, and extend that beyond that physical periphery, if you will. But what happened was, again, the tone of the racism and the attitudes between colors, it disrupted something that was beautiful. Okay, and it became a racial issue. It became, why are you prospering, and who do you think you are, and how do we disrupt and take from you with the things that you've accumulated by hard work? And so, yeah, it was a racial issue. After, it was a very significant, miraculous, economic, modern day commerce related issue. So we need to make sure the narrative is not so much the how it ended, the burning of the businesses, the looting, the stealing, and the murders. We need to make sure the narrative focuses on a miraculous commerce, business driven model that just happened to be initiated, perpetuated by the Blacks in Greenwood, Oklahoma in the early 1900s. Now, getting to the ideology side, we want to take a look at the idea that this is instilled in all of us, okay? If you want to have the ideology that you want to grow resources within your own community, that's what we do in America, okay? You exercise your freedoms and your liberties to trade amongst specific groups, no groups, or all groups. It's up to you. If you think that your particular culture has something to benefit and offer other cultures, then that's what you do. You grow internally so that you actually end up with something to offer. You want to have medical resources, that's what you grow. If you want to have legal resources, that's what you grow. If you want to have financial, tax planning, plain and simple merchandise that you offer within your group, other groups, you grow that internally, organically first, and then you reach out because now you have something to offer. You know what I mean, Evan? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I understand what in a big picture, I understand what value it brings to individuals and as a group. So you have more buying power, more selling power, more collaboration power. So for me, I think initially that's how whole society used to be before the butterism and stuff, and obviously during the time of expansion, everything seems like become fast tracked and become fragmented. So,
right.
And I personally think, that the people remember our ancestors, they wasn't wrong. They were clever as us at today, but they just didn't have this perhaps this type of telecommunication fast as we have today. But they did good plans for whole society to get on and so on and so forth. I totally agree with you. We need to work in a local level first, and then expand beyond our local levels as we progress for better for all. At the moment, I'm initiating actually what we call a seed exchange, and we buy the seeds. Basically, we take the colleges and we ask the colleges and schools children to grow the seed and bring us the plant to the cooperative area. So we basically raise money that way and help the institutions around us to tool up and whatever their needs are. At the moment, I'm working on that initiative, and I started up here in my local area. At the moment, we got around 4,000 students participating in this April. For basically start like now, they just doing a planting. We try to basically, the idea is turn a tomato to $1 million.
Oh, okay. Wow. Wow.
And that's the ecosystem for that is basically every individual student will grow the tomato, and the tomato plant will grow certain height, and then they will bring to the school. Somebody will go collect that and give equivalent of each plant €1 to the school. It's like a donation, but this time we just basically doing it in organically. So we're getting something received back, and we basically plant them tomatoes and then sell the tomatoes again and keep some of the seeds. So for following years, and it seems been working well since we started only last year, and we have a lot of interest because it's helping a lot of good causes. And as the location I am live is very close community, very religious community, and some of the ideas like sometimes people just don't get it at first till you actually see in what happens, and then they allow you to
Yeah.
infiltrate on this
Right.
old way of doing things.
Well,
And
that's where we want to focus on. There's going to be impediments. You have impediments. Different ethnic groups, cultures, we have impediments, and we all need to make sure we understand. Look, when you have something that could be deemed beneficial to your group, and it threatens the mainstream way of corporate America, for instance, or major corporations and major governments, if they can't dictate ultimately what you like, don't like, read, don't read, eat, don't eat, or something, yeah, typically it becomes a problem. And there's a comment on the side, and if you can help me take a look at some of these comments, because I'm going to be focusing on
yeah,
promoting this.
he says sounds like simple life, but there are those that do not want to see that happen to the society. Yeah, I understand that. It is simple life for all of us. Is not complicated or a secret we live in, but reality is that the life has got so complicated because we live in a fast lane today, and everybody's like in a remote control age, and everybody wants to be part owner of something, and we are all owner of this planet. I don't care what people says, but we are all in part of it, and we are all owner of it, and we have equal amount input and output that we should all have. And reality is some of the things that being like written in maritime laws that just divide us. We can't do it ourselves, have to be then incorporated. You have to set up a company, you have to go through the all loopholes, try to get going, and that's like stopping a lot of creative people in the world to actually get something happening in a local level, in my own experience.
Okay, now in addition to that, that's a very good perspective, and I want to make sure everybody understands. Look, these questions are very vital and critical questions. Okay, there is nothing wrong with having simplicity, and at the same time having tackling an issue that has been a very contentious issue. Okay, if life seems like it's defined as simple, then so be it. If that's the end result, or if that's what it looks like, that's fine. The road to get there may be a little bit bumpy, and it may go against the grain of what we typically the path that we typically travel. Okay, then so be it. But yeah, Dina Wells, that's a very good point. And there are those that do not want to see that happen, and we have to really look at that comment or that and take it and understand the implications, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to be self-sufficient in the respect that if I can have more control over what I eat, what I buy, where I buy it from, what I read, or whatever, then that's America. Okay, that's what this country was founded upon, and we don't need to deviate from that to the point where we feel guilty by having every culture develop their own identity, understanding of their background, understanding of the ancestry, understanding of who they are, and having a plan for cohesiveness. I think a lot of times when we all adapt this template form of living and interacting, or if it's medicine, if it's food or something, guess what? that medicine that needs to be individualized for you. Okay, I don't want to give my medicine necessarily or my protocol for getting well to you, or you and 100 or 1,000 other people expecting the same results. So yeah, to some degree, we really need to take a look at the individuality that we bring to the table. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you going back and saying, look, what is it that makes me unique? What is it that my culture brings to the table? What is it that we can offer? And that way, when we partake in each other's celebrations, ceremonies, historical traditions, cultural traditions, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the uniqueness. We're looking for something that takes us away from what we normally are involved with in our own cultures. We want to appreciate the richness of the other culture, right? So you can't develop that unless you actually develop it. So by all means, take a look at the idea that all we're promoting is the idea that we want rich cultural emphasis being and make sure that you understand this is not by any means an attempt to suggest that we mix up mix up the mixing bowl to the point where everyone looks alike, acts alike, sounds alike. No, we need to take a look at the individual aspects that we all bring to the table.
I mean, that's fine, like you say, Avenue. Yeah, I think that's all right if everybody's going the same direction, or act like and feel like and understand like. I agree with you, but as you know yourself, as human history, like say last 5,000 years, seems like to me is just like we had a ball upright and seems now ball's upside down. And for all of us in the same place, it doesn't really matter what our cultural background is, what education is, what color skin we have. The whole direction of ecosystem, most mindful people, in my view, is just the same goal and going to for better direction and making everything's better for around them and globally as well. And genuinely, that's if you analyze the young children, for example, say you put some ethnic minority background children and separate from their geolocation and put different geolocation, let them like grow, they're not going to grow up not be like anti-Semitist or have some ideas like being written on histories and things like that. And I think they become more mutual and co-work very well. And and we need to have a will like that for all of us. And the end goal is really all we're doing is destroying the ecosystem.
Right. Well, let's take a look at that, because that's a very good point. Now, children typically, when they're raised together like that, they don't look at the differences, right?
Yep.
You view me as a child, as a friend, and vice versa, right?
Absolutely. I don't see you different color. I don't see you different gender. I don't see you different culture.
Right. Okay, now let's view that in a larger context. Let's just say me and you are friends because we grew up together, right?
Exactly.
However, we want to make absolutely sure, and anybody who's looking at the replay, we want to make absolutely sure that's not the whole story. Because me and Evan, if we were 5 years old and we grew up together, we wouldn't take a look so much at the differences, because we would be under the impression that as long as we are friends, as long as we're happy playing together, then everything's fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's comes to the game. That's come to the game of compromise.
Pardon?
It says that comes to the game of compromise, because I really like your heart, you like my heart, and we compromise with each other, we get along.
Right. Now, the part two of that is, let's make absolutely sure that we understand as well that the cultural differences should not be taken for granted, because typically, see, what happens is we get a chance to learn about each other on a superficial level, because we never had to look at or needed to look at the differences. But if Evan were asked about Monty, where did he come from? Give me some idea about what he likes, doesn't like, culturally speaking, geographically, where did he come from? What are some of the difference between, how his skin is darker and why, or why his hair is straighter or why not? There's absolutely nothing wrong with me being able to say why. Okay, so yeah, a lot of times we want to make sure that we understand, why did we evolve this way? What makes Evan Evan? Where did he come from? What country? What was his ancestry? You know, his hair is straight, my hair is not. His skin is lighter, my skin is not. It's not a negative to take a look at that and try to figure out why, because believe it or not, as humans, we've always been curious about our surroundings, right? No one penalizes you for trying to figure out why there's, volcanoes over here and oceans over there and such. Okay, so we need to be as critical about defining who we are as human beings and why we became that way, and maybe we can appreciate the differences as well, right?
Yeah, I think you said it well. And as soon as we understand
Thank
that,
you.
we need to appreciate, and that's exactly what you just said, is look at our planet. And every train is not same, every plant is not same. So I wouldn't
That's right.
expect every human is going to be the same,
No.
because we are a part of this life. I agree with you. It's just like right now that, say, we look at into the biology of things, say we go and analyze our DNAs and so on and so forth. There really is not much different in individually, but only thing different is a small, minute, different frequency that makes you Monty, that makes me Evan, and that's all. It is the
Right.
difference. A
Exactly.
small, minute frequency. That's all it is. That's small frequency generates you skin. Your mother has a different frequency. My mother has a different frequency. Like our Mother Earth has different frequency. That's different plants growing, different geolocation. They don't could be, for example, pine tree in Himalaya and pine tree in New York or Florida. The leaves look same, but the really molecules maybe look same, but the looks never is going to look same. So even if it's two pine trees and from same seed, it doesn't look same. Even
Right.
like twins,
Okay. Now
and
that's very important, because see, hold that thought. I just want to make sure you guys understand. Look, you don't learn these things until you actually study them. Okay, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with me saying, what about the frequency differences? What about the melatonin differences? What about the, adrenaline levels or something? Well,
I mean,
what about
that's
the melatonin
just said it.
levels?
That's the part loves like have a misconception about. Obviously, the education part, that why, the question big why is important for us to be inquisitive, be able to do the research. And if we don't do that, then obviously we just go as a bias, and which is we just like empty vessel, and whatever somebody else tells us, we end up trying to copy part of it, either is right, correct part or wrong part. We just stick to that ideology. And real world is different, as we all know. Real world is everything's different. So I really personally don't expect to see people be the same. We say we all the
Well,
same,
well,
but we
that
don't.
that's well. No, look, we're not exactly the same.
You
Look,
know,
let's take a look at 5 or 10,000 year old Ayurvedics and homeopathy and such. Personalized medicine is called personalized for a reason. Okay, teachers reach out to students differently for very particular reasons. Doctors treat people, hopefully going forward, by taking a look at you. Where do what are your views on your job? What are your views on your family? How do you handle stress? In other words, let's start taking a look at the individualness, the personalized, from a personalized perspective, because that's where we're going. No longer do we have to have this cookie cutter template approach whereby, the same thing applies to you, applies to me, and applies to the other guy as well. Sometimes we really need to take a look at the differences, and focusing on the topic here, we need to take a look at developing within the certain spheres, a place where we can say, look, I think I understand. I think I get it. That particular group, the reason why they like these foods, they like this music, they like this particular type of activities or whatever, is because this reason. So again, it's not a negative to go back, take a few steps back and say, look, let's try and figure out where we came from. What are we all about? And then that way, maybe our kids and their kids and grandchildren will be able to say, look, I think I got a better understanding because somebody decided to go back and say, look, it's not a bad thing to figure out where what makes the human species so diverse and so unique amongst each other.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, humans, as human beings, we know we are diverse beings. We know we are capable of being understanding, be able to be thinking and consciously and manipulate the elements. So that's not secret at all to any of us. But when you look at reality, the thing is that we have such a big gap of understanding. Our history alone and is so big parts missing, so we really don't know where we came from and how to become. Do we part of the creationists? Do we part of the God? Do we part of the nature? So at the currently we just have like one type of tool or methods that we try to find answers for this, which is what we call a science. And most of the science that what we know up to the date seems it just goes around the loop and not be able to get out of it and not giving us his answers because it's still new itself. So as evolving human beings, we know we are capable of thinking. We know we're capable of vision. We know we're capable of sound. We know we're capable of hearing. And we know we can analyze the soil, see what pH level is at the soil. So we know we can analyze our DNAs, and we know we can even analyze every single molecule that we are inbuilt in ourselves. But really, still, we don't have like that foot map or the map of the human beings. Where did they just thrive from? If we were growing from the really monkeys from the trees, why doesn't happen anymore? For example, and it becomes a question of a chicken and egg scenario, and a lot of us goes around the same circle. And ideally, we need to have developed certain tools to say, where does the earth come from? Okay, we can analyze this as like, so many million years has happened from this matter, but really where that matter come from? And then we get stuck because we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have enough tools.
Without getting too scientific, I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
try and make sure that when people look at the replay, that they understand as well the big picture. From a scientific perspective, how do you want to analyze the human species? I agree with you. Evolutionists have a seat at the table. Creationists have a seat at the table, and we somehow want to translate that into I
Proper
guess a
language.
dialogue, right? Yeah,
Proper language.
a language. Yeah, proper language. Right, exactly. So just to reiterate, when you guys are looking at the replay, we're taking a look at an ideology pertaining to Black Wall Street and what that means as far as the biggest picture, 30,000-foot view is concerned. What we're looking at is the opportunity to address some of the deficiencies that occur on the real Wall Street. Okay, there's a real Wall Street, and that pretty much dictates allocation of capital, what you buy, again, what you read, what you eat. Okay, that and see, those are very big players, and they have a very good amount of influence over us in terms of, again, how we think and all that. And this is the ideology. Why not have an alternative? Okay, why not have a number of companies that could possibly be listed somewhere or in a directory even, where you can say, look, I only want to deal with companies that are sustainable, green energy based, that don't trade with terrorist countries or whatever it is, whatever theme you can think of. I don't think there's absolutely anything wrong with you being able to have a resource or a central clearinghouse or a place, an alternative to the real Wall Street, where you can say, look, Evan goes there and he says, look, here's a portfolio of companies that we can invest in, buy from, work with, partner with, and they all they don't do tobacco, they don't do alcohol, they don't do guns and ammunition. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I think we're finding out more and more and more that we don't have to go along with the traditional established business model, right, Evan?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think that is the major push will be between now maybe 22nd century, 23rd century, maybe what ideology talking about the people genuinely will realize that is what is in place is not cohesive for everybody, and is not everybody's included in the same meal, for example. And
Exactly.
I would say the ideology of the people putting together to be green environmentally, green everything, is always been there. Like prehistory's been there. Like when you look this
Right.
ecosystem we live in, it is like that, and we just basically forward it and mechanized everything, machinized everything, and got out of that cycle. And unfortunately, we need to have technology to do that so mankind can be free thinking and create ideologies to better everything. So,
Yeah, I think we have a question. Is that a question or a comment over there?
I think as a comment from Steve says people need to pay attention to the history more. They don't, and so we repeat the same mistakes. I agree with you. I mean, we do pay attention to the history. The people who has a certain level of education and IQ, I guarantee you pay attention to history very much, and that is a type of roadmap for us to look back and see what's happened, and then see what can we do. You know, it's just like building Roman built the road, and obviously we want to like tarmac the road. So at that time they didn't exist that technology. Now today we say, yeah, they built the foundation for us. Let's make it better. And some part of the
But
history.
let's remember this too, Evan. I want you to complete your thought. Okay, but I just want to interject this. Remember too, what he's saying really strikes to the heart of how do you avoid making the same mistakes if you don't really analyze history. And when we say history, you guys make sure you understand. If I tell you what the history is, that's a little bit different from you researching and studying and finding out about a more accurate portrayal of history. Okay, so let's make a distinction between the mainstream version of history versus what we learn when we do our own research. And see, a lot of us, like myself, we get a more accurate depiction of what actually occurred after you graduate. This what we call, again, K through 12 in the United States. You have to independently study history. You know, if I want to take a look at Evan, where he came from, and where his ancestry actually came from, and how that played a role in building up America, or building up the countries where his ancestors lived and inhabited. I need to look at that and study that, and see, a lot of times that story doesn't get told. So let's make sure we understand too that if we want to avoid making those mistakes, let's do our own research and let's really dig into the details so that we can avoid some of the things that because we base our decisions right now on a warped, manipulated version of history, I think, for the most part. And I don't know if we could avoid the mistakes that we want to avoid if the original information that we got a hold of when we were younger, if that's flawed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that what you just said is pretty accurate about having lived and understanding the history part, and also the war history that we accustomed to understand and read about. Is just like one individual. You, like you say, you could explain history to me, and I could explain history to someone else. Is we constantly will change, interpret different ways. It has all like this interchanging constantly that goes on. And I totally agree with you. Is understanding the ancestry, understanding where the root tree is growing, is the most important to us than some of the nonsense stuff that's out there that just occupies our time, doesn't get us to the point where we say, oh, Monty, you come from this place and this is your ancestor, this is your bloodline, this is what you ate, this is what you grow on. And then we say, okay, hang on, Monty, I'm going to build a block in here in front of you. Before you get to the side, you have to make sure that your ancestor is clarified. yeah, your history is clarified, and that's the type of system we inherited currently, which is not working for all of us and all around the world, in my view.
Looks like Chris, are you here as well? I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's an individual by the name of Chris Weeks. He is very, very good when it comes to providing very valuable input. Chris, if you want to take a seat, you're more than welcome. We want to get as much diversity of opinion in the lab as well. So grab a seat, Chris, if you don't mind.
I think
I don't know how much time you have, whatever. But
I think
okay,
just out.
okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, go ahead. Well, I just wanted, just in case he heard some of that, just want to let him know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, is having collective database. I mean, collective
Right.
database that's open database is just very similar to the blockchain that we've been talking about. For actually
Exactly.
humans of the planet is necessary, in my view, is need to happen and need to be put in place and need to be active, is need to be accessed for every single person that lives on this planet, so we can understand who is need help. For example, if it's like somebody
Right.
is
That's
really
right.
psychologically need help, who can we connect with that person, help that person? If it's like criminal cases that who that person need help from to understand and separate like issues, things like that, just get a little bit more streamlined. And for us, we need to have that type of database being created. Hey up, Dave. Welcome. We need, like, as human beings, imagine we want fast trains, fast planes, fast ferries, and at the moment we have them, but it seems like there's so many nuts and bulbs missing, so everyone can't get on. As if, like, imagine like something happened to the planet Earth tomorrow, and we need this big shuttle to get off here and go find somewhere else to live. We get all stuck. So for us to get to that stage, I think we'd have some sort of plan, like you say, and local level is growth as a global level.
So this is really critical, you guys. Make sure you understand there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a plan of action. Okay.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Again, if Evan is going to provide me with enough information about who he is, his ancestry, where he came from, and how they interact with each other and the communities outside, that would be nice if I can go to somewhere and say, look, wow, your plight coming to this country, or your plight going to your country, or settling here or settling there, and the way you interact with each other, is really interesting for me. Right now, I feel like I got a very good rounded knowledge of what makes up this individual, right? And I think this really strikes at the heart of our relationships, with each other. And again, going forward, I can see us, in the future, hopefully not too far into the future, where we are literally taking in consideration a much more comprehensive amount of information or data, if you will, about the individuals that we interact with on a daily basis. And that way I can consider, hopefully, the things that you like, don't like, appreciate, don't appreciate, et cetera, because right now, see, we have a lot of hot button issues. We have a lot of sensitive subjects and such that we feel uncomfortable with when interacting with each other. And if we knew a little bit more about each other, we could consider all of that during our interactions with each other. So just like the stupid search engines, they try to present us with a very good idea of what we might buy, what we might read, what we might wear, what we might eat. There's nothing wrong with me taking that in consideration about some of my own people that I interact with online, right? So let's try to figure out, why is it that Google, why is it that Apple, why is it that Microsoft, why are they getting that information from us? It's our information, but they're using it for profitable motivations. Okay, they're trying to commercialize and monetize. Okay, We don't necessarily need to take all of that model. I think what we need to consider is just, look, who I am as a whole, that's important, and who you are as a whole, that's important. So if we have that same type of information, then I think we can have much more richer understandings. If I click on your profile, or you click on my profile, you get a very good idea on one level what I'm all about. But what if that information was really rich, right? What if it told me a lot more information based upon what you want me to know, not what I could extract one way or the other, but what you push out to me, right, after I request it from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
agree.
there's some models that we need to take a look at and see if we can't flip some of these things upside down and try to figure out why Apple and Google and Microsoft and all these guys are benefiting from it and taking advantage of it. But we're just right now we're not considering why that information is important at all, and how we can use it in our personal exchanges and relationships.
I mean, slowly, I think to just put it in perspective, like law firms around the world slowly use that type of thing, like in collaboration, they have the tools, but I totally agree with you.
Who is that?
Say law companies, for example, Interpol or intelligence community, they have this type of tool.
Right.
So I personally 100% agree with you. Need to be widely available, need to be publicly available, need to be publicly accessible for every individual to understand, and what data is there for them to analyze, as well as this collaboration, as well as like making a world richer person with knowledge wise. So I think that's essential.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to understand we live in a world where we have been separated from the very things that makes us unique. Everybody's reaching into our personal information, our personal lives, and they're extracting all of this from us. But what if we take a lot of that back and say, look, wait a minute, this is what makes me me. So, if you ask me for it, I'll give it to you. But other than that, let's make we understand why that's valuable. So yeah, as we learn more about ourselves and each other, that becomes the most valuable thing that there is, pretty much. And so yeah, let's go back and take a few steps back and try to figure out, how are we going to find out more about each other, find out about ourselves, find out about our histories, ancestries, etc. And let's take control and take possession of that rich cultural diversity on a very, very minute microcosmic level, and make those resources available to the people on a as needed basis that need to know. And then that way, as we have our personal exchanges and relationships, then you release more and more information. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me saying, look, Evan, I don't mind giving you a deeper level or permission to understand who I am and what I'm all about, because we've interacted. I know you know me a little bit better. So look, I'm going to give you more permission.
I agree with you. I wanted to just add to it, like what happens is most of the information that is shipped from us to the different institutions is being monetized since the day we born. Long as I've not been classed as a natural human on the planet, I'm a product of somebody else in my eye view. And long as that happens, we somehow just being really clamped down in a way that you cannot just fly like bird as information wise. And in that sense, it has so much red tape, so much rabbit holes going on in our world. I agree with you. I mean, we need to have that type of things. We need to have also tools for individually when we're born, for example, be able to either put us in a credit system that all rest of your life you don't have to really waste your time about credit issues. So you're one human being, you're gonna live between A to B, and everything get calculated. What your input will be, what your output will be to the world, and you can calculate it and replicate all that stuff in the society, and that will push us second level of about information, and that will help us.
Yeah. See, look, you guys, what Evan is referring to is very, very critical. Okay, so when you come to this blab and you're looking at where we started off at, the title of the blab gives you a very good indication. This is not just summary discussion where we're wasting time and trying to figure out how to waste time till real life kicks in. This is real life. Okay. Right now, corporate America and government agencies all around the world are trying to figure out how to extract your identity, how to extract all the things that make us what we are. They're trying to put that in a database or format and label it and sell it and monetize it and use it, okay, to make money in
RFID.
every conceivable area. Go ahead.
It says also going to the RFID and semiconductors industry is already creating a lot of different devices that can be implemented. I don't know if you guys are seeing the Justin Timberlake movie. I think it's something to do with the time. And when time runs out, individual just like passes away. And that's pretty a good thing to look at what future could be like for us as human beings and how we could be controlled in a way that we don't have any control at all, what even we eat, what we say, when we sleep type of thing. So that's important for us to understand, like, our freedom is imperative, guys. In every single corner of the world, we all strive for having freedom to understand,
Right.
exchange, and implement.
Yeah. I want you to refresh your browser real fast, Evan. We lost your
Okay.
video. You got poor audio signal, but you go ahead and refresh it while
Okay.
I elaborate a little bit. Okay, I'm going to elaborate on what Evan is saying because this is really critical. A lot of companies are starting to take a look at, for instance, one area is genetics, okay? And the blacks have very unique genetics, just like the whites and the Hispanics and such. And when you think about it, if we're not careful, our genetics will be patented and trademarked and controlled by corporations and entities that have no particular concern or connection to making sure that we're not taken advantage of. Okay, no loyalty is what I'm trying to get at to us. Okay, now as a very specific example, the genetics that make up me are very important for how I grow, what I eat, if I get sick or don't get sick or something. So to bring this full circle and make sure that we connect these dots here, don't take for granted, your culture, your background, your genetics, etc. And again, the Black Wall Street concept is an ideology for how do you take those resources, those critical, valuable resources that make up you, and how do you at least start with a very summary place where you put information regarding various individuals, even on the highest level, in terms of who you interact with, and who we can buy from, not buy from, or something. In other words, if we pull resources, start the pulling of resources in certain areas, and make sure that we understand that it's important to protect who we are and what we're all about, and what makes us different, what makes us individual rather, and start to take back ownership. And again, we want to grant permission to get access to that information on an as needed basis. Okay, we don't have to give it up first and then fight to take it back. So yeah, let's find out what makes us culturally diverse, but let's take a few steps back even further than that, and let's try and for at least as far as I'm concerned, we want to take this ideology of Black Wall Street and make sure that we have a network or a place where we can at least duplicate this central clearinghouse of information, so that you can go here and you can see that these are some of the companies, these are some of the products, these are some of the services that the Black community can identify with, and then other people can look at that and say, okay, I think I understand why you have a propensity towards eating this, or using that product, or reacting to this type of marketing or advertising, or whatever it is, right? So yeah, you have to start, unfortunately, from a place where you are being very critical of why you lost your identity, why you're treated as a part of this mainstream marketing model, if you will, and no one's taking into consideration your individuality. But we know the trends in medicine. We know the trends in education. We know the trends in a lot of different areas are telling us clearly that we need to go back. Let me see what happened. Get in if you'd like to have input. Okay, I don't know what happened. Whether you want to jump in again, Evan, but it's up to you. Hopefully, after you refresh. So yeah, let's take a look at the trends as far as personalization is concerned, as far as personalization of medicine, personalization of education. Money matters. Okay, I can't give you the same roadmap to help you with your financial planning as I give to the other person, because their needs, wants, risk requirements, etc., are all different, right? So let's not forget that we are individuals first, okay? And that you got to bring all that to the table, the things that makes you individual. Okay, if I'm Black, then that's what I got to deal with, and that means from a medical standpoint, that means from a financial planning standpoint, that means my money outlook and perspective, risk tolerance, etc. How I embrace learning, that needs to be taken into consideration, because that's me, right? So yeah, for better or for worse, we're all different. We have some common goals, but we're different, and we need to take that in consideration and not feel guilty about those things that make us, because society tells us, oh yeah, you don't have the right to take a critical look at where you come from and what that. But yeah, we need to remember that. It looked like Evan finally got back in. So how you doing, Evan?
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm having some little bit issues with my ISP. I think internet's a bit slow. I'd like to share a couple of resources with you, Monty, is maybe useful.
Well, it's no big deal.
There is one resources that I found out is very cool to know is websites called instantcheckmate.inkusa.com. Let me see if I can find you the link.
Oh, okay.
That type of system in place, I think, yeah, definitely we need to have this type of tools, that what you've been saying, for us be able to understand our data, be ownership of our data, so nobody can basically trademark our beginnings, basically, is 100%.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. Yeah, unfortunately. So we have to remember that's exactly what's going on, because it's valuable. It's important, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we're not careful, some other companies are going to say, look, Evan, you can't have this type of operation because we have the patent on doctors treating you in this fashion, right? So as absurd as it sounds, that's some of the things we're up against. I'm sorry, go on.
I tried to post this link in here just a second, see if it gets there.
Great.
It's websites used by intelligence community normally, and there's quite a lot of data in there, so you guys can check out.
Great.
I think it's done it, but hopefully I can post it. Let me refresh and I'll post you the link. Seems like website's not opening.
Great. Oh. Okay, so while Evan is doing that, just for the replay, again, what we're going to try to do is have a blog. I got a blog site. Okay, I created a blog site where we're going to post resources. And if you guys take a look at the replay, make sure you understand that you can go to the blog site. And if you own a company, a black business, for instance, we want to hear from you. We want people to know if they want hair care products, cosmetics, graphics designers, website developers, serving our community, then maybe they can go there to the blog site, to my blog site, for instance, and take a look at who you are, what you're all about, what you have to offer. Okay. Now, I'm not going to take responsibility for anybody's business and their interactions with their customers or whatever. But I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with you having this additional exposure and having, again, a place where people can go and take a look at hopefully rich resources. And that's what I'm going to put on the actual blog site. And as a matter of fact, before I forget, we have a significant, what is that? Dave, can we do it? Okay, yeah. So we have a few resources that we need to look at, definitely. Let me see. I think there was a Black Association of Financial Planners, for instance. This is another critical area. Okay, yeah, this is not exclusive to Blacks, but we definitely have a lack of understanding of finances in the Black communities. And we are very adverse to even investing our monies or planning appropriately. And I think this organization Okay, I'm not endorsing any of these organizations, but I think if you guys take a look at the idea that we do have financial planners in the African community, and they will hopefully be able to talk to you, and we'll have a better relationship because of who we are and where we come from. So so take a look at some of these links. Again, if you own if you own a company, and you can offer some of these services, then by all means, when you go to our blog site, for instance, take a look at what we have there, and see if you want to list any of that information. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so again, just to recap, we want to have a plan moving forward. We have a model, and that in the early 1920s, there was a Black Wall Street. It was a geographic, very specific location where a lot of Black entrepreneurs did very well for a short period of time, a dozen years or so. Attracted a lot of attention nationwide from fellow Black entrepreneurs. They moved to Greenwood, Oklahoma, prospered, raised families. And unfortunately, there was a particular racial racial issue that was instigated for the sole purpose of destroying this particular endeavor or model. So give you some ideas of spreadsheets. Okay, great. And thanks, Evan. And this particular model was a very good model. I think we could build upon it. I think we can learn some lessons from history, and hopefully we can go forward and take a look at what do we need to do. to better some of the resources, particularly in the Black community, better network with each other, better figure out the cultural origins of who we are, what makes us us, and hopefully have one clearinghouse in my blog site, and other people are encouraged to duplicate that and copy it and get this to the point where we can use these major search engines, if you will, to find these critical resources and thus expand the knowledges of who we are and what we're all about. And that way we can have more of a significant or meaningful role in determining our own fate. Okay. Again, I don't think the particular corporate structure, the government structure, or the model, and me and Evan and a lot of us talk about this all the time. The financial model, the monetary system is not really serving us well. We need to try to figure out how do we take advantage of the differences. There's a technology called blockchain that we talk about. It's associated with Bitcoin. And if you don't know anything about it, you better take a look at finding out as much as possible about it. And I'll put a link in there. What is Bitcoin? Okay, my own blog. You can use that as a resource if you can find that during the playback, and go there and learn about that particular currency, because it's a currency, it's a technology, it's a very disruptive thing that's going to cause a lot of people, banks, etc., people to have some alternatives to take a look at. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're going to focus on. Okay, thanks, Evan. I appreciate you dropping in, and we'll see you in the near future, and hopefully we can participate and discuss and talk about some things in the future. Okay. Okay. Thanks again. So I'm going to wrap this up, I think, and focus on my business and see if I have any customer-related issues that I need to attend to. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up, and feel free to play back, go through it, ask the questions, make the comments, go to the blog site, participate in the discussion forum over there if you want, and let's get some resources on that blog site. Tell us about your business. Tell us about who you are. I'll get it listed right on the blog site, so we won't have to worry about so many people saying I can't connect to the Black community. We don't have any resources. There is no central places. Okay, at least there'll be one. And then, of course, you can copy that information from my blog site, put it wherever you want, so that hopefully in the future it won't be so difficult to find this stuff. Okay, so you guys, it was a pleasure having this blog, and it's been a pleasure trying to stir up a little bit and mix it up a little bit, present some ideas, some concepts that may be controversial, maybe not, maybe enlightening, maybe not. I don't know. You never know. But anyway, we're on record, and we appreciate it when you guys join us in these particular sessions. Bring a friend, relative, enemy back to this session if you want. And let me see, I'm going to put just a little bit of information about my company, because I run a real company, and this is how I can afford to take the time out and pursue some of these other endeavors. So if you want to patronize my website, I appreciate it very much. If not, that's fine too. Just take advantage of the educational information. Take advantage of the articles and the videos and the blogs and the podcasts to learn about GMOs, to learn about pharmaceuticals in the water, to learn about the stupid IRS, what they're doing to us, taking advantage of us, learn about how to protest against unfair tax policies, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it's just all sorts of general educational information that you can get off of my blogs and off my website, different places where I'm posting. So you guys have a great day, and it was a pleasure, and I look forward to having another discussion in the near future. Okay, thanks again. Take care. Bye.